Alright, YouTube, the Gaming Seahorse coming right back at you one more time, giving you the most unbiased video game thoughts on the YouTube space. There's been an image that's floating around Twitter today, caught my attention, thought I would share some thoughts about it. Okay, so I'm just going to preface this by saying, not a witch hunt against the presentator at GDC 2017. I tried to look up their presentation to see what it was all about. I tend to step back, look at the whole big picture before I start making some comments here, but this slide from a doctor at a game development conference just blew my mind. I was at a loss for words after reading it. I had to read it like 3 or 4 times because I consider myself a professional gamer, maybe a higher grade than normal, as in it does consume a large portion of my life. Ethnically, I would not consider myself white. I am kind of a mixture of all races, so I can comment on this. I come from a different place. I don't have a sexuality and gender. Who needs it? I don't like to live with labels. Now that I've got this context out of the way, if I were in one of her classes, she's a professor, if I were in one of her classes and this slide showed up and I had to remember it from the test, I'd have to raise my hand and have her break this down for me, because I don't know what she wants to say. Let me read it for you, and we'll try and make sense of it. Video games are expressions of culture. God damn it. And it is ethically irresponsible of us as educators and human beings, because those can't be one and the same, especially given the garbage fire that is politics today. Here's what bothers me. I'm reading this and I'm seeing that she's capitalizing everything like it's a proper noun, or at the beginning of the sentence, but it's not. It reminds me of those old MySpace blog posts or some live journal that you would read, and that person would be either posting song lyrics or shit about their day, just all in every cap. Like, that drives me nuts. It doesn't seem like she's being inclusive to somebody with my condition in her slide. Anyway, to send our students out into the, why isn't out capitalized? Never mind. Into the world without teaching them to think about the fact that the work they produce exists in a broader social context. Like, to seriously think about that and actually care. Video games are expressions of culture. This is a declarative statement. I think she's trying to contextualize this as in saying that what you put out there has an effect on people, and that you have to view video games through a particular lens of your culture. Okay, I've taken a sociology course. Video games are expression of culture, much like music, much like literature, much like any media, or any sort of interaction with another human. You're always in the context of your culture. So I don't understand why she brought that up, but continuing on. God damn it. And it is ethically irresponsible of us as educators and human beings, especially given the garbage fire that is politics today, to send our students out into the world without teaching them to think. Here's the thing. The first sentence is a declarative statement, period. I just really hate run-on sentences, and this is so many thoughts are packed into one. Just period, put a period there, maybe explain what you mean, then move on. So the second part is, God damn it, it's irresponsible, something about politics being a garbage fire, that we are now educators and teachers because we make games, or you're a game developer. So you have a responsibility to then carefully take in social context or expressions of culture and modify that to be some homogenized product that teaches students the broader social context to seriously think about and care that video games are an expression of culture. So this is really tough here. She didn't even end the sentence. So she has a quote without a name attached to it, And she doesn't end it with a period. So this is just one stream of thought. Like, if your friend had uttered this sentence to you drunk, you would tell them to put their keys in the bowl and go home. All right, so unpacking this all, video games are expressions of culture. That's a given, I guess, but not necessarily so. I mean, it's a game. If you look at Pong, is that an expression of culture? It's just, a ball moving back and forth. Maybe it's an expression of tennis. Maybe, because I looked into the speaker here. I'm not going to name her name. You can find it out, you can figure it out. I'm not trying to, as I said, start a witch hunt. But this person seems to have knowledge of more indie games and games with social messages attached to them. I'll give her the benefit of the doubt here. I think her view of video games is that video games we should be ethically responsible by using our games as a teaching medium, or teaching students to develop games to exist in a broader social context. The issue I have is asking, what social context are you working with? Because if you look at a video game that was made in Japan with their social context and values and cultural isms that we over here in America might not understand, should you try and make a video game that will fit into a social context of every single nation? And like, where do you draw the line? So you can't share your narrow social context. It has to exist in a broader category. As a developer, if I can't express a story, a point of view, or just an artistic expression through my own lens, through my own influences, maybe it's not always just about politics when you play a video game. Like, maybe that's not at the forefront. Maybe it has something to do with the experience. Like, what kind of world are you trying to create? I look at something, so no, you might think of something like Life is Strange or Gone Home or one of the other walking simulators that exist to teach a social message and not necessarily to have a fun experience or achieve a challenge, I look at a game like Mass Effect. So if we're going to talk about something, because I'm not arguing that there can't be any sort of social messages within. I'm just saying that shouldn't be a primary objective. But I look at a game like Mass Effect. That's a game that might have one of the most understated social messages all throughout. Like, it was controversial back in the day. Like, I remember like Fox News or something calling it a sex simulator. And it kind of got a bad rap based on from people who haven't experienced the full game cover to cover or understand nuance. Mass Effect deals with, a space captain that is traveling through all these galaxies and interacting with all these races of aliens. And there's all this cultural background and history, and there's like the Krogan genophage, and there's so much to know. It's a really rich world, and there are races that are at ends with each other. They're not coexisting, and there's some racism, and there's a particular character from Mass Effect 1, Ashley, that, she's kind of like she would be the redneck of outer space, or your race purist or whatever, because she doesn't trust any aliens, and it has to do with her past. So she is somewhat racist against certain races of aliens, and depending on like if you want to fuck her or not, you too might also agree with her points or disagree. So that's a social message that I think works within video games. It's giving the player agency to interact within a context that serves the game world and makes it richer. I'm not saying you can't have walking simulators or Gone Home. There are people out there that just eat that shit up and they love it. The Walking Dead and all those Telltale games try and deal with moral conundrums, but I don't think any of that is an obligation as developers. I don't think you should come in with social biases or political message you want to deliver. And then I saw this other really weird slide from her. It says, teaching students to make games under fascism. Are they making games in North Korea? Are there North Korean developers out there that we should know about? What is your social context? Like, what is the context for fascism? Here's the deal. Anyone can make a game that has access to a PC and some basic programming knowledge. I don't see anyone that's busting down doors in America saying that, no, you can't make that game. Here are our rules. Here are our laws. You're going to jail for making that game. I mean, of course, there's always going to be some sort of consequence to your message or your ideas. Like, there might be somebody out there who challenges your ideas or disagrees with you, or maybe holds a bias against you for holding certain ideals. Like, and that works both ways. Making games under fascism, that's a statement that, let's posit a scenario, like a teacher-student scenario here. So teaching students to make games under fascism. So if that was the title of your paper, I would want you to explain more. Like, who are the fascists? You're teaching students to make games under a fascist rule. So are you breaking laws that would then prevent you to make a video game? Are you telling us to break the laws of our country? Like, where's the fascism? Is there any laws in place preventing women or people of a different gender denomination or sexual orientation from making a video game? Is there anyone just wagging their finger and saying, no, sorry, only people that belong to these binary genders or sexualities can make a video game? I think pretty much anyone can go to college in America to make a video game. I don't know what that means. I looked into this person's classes that they teach. I wanted to know where they're getting their ideas from, or what philosophies they're trying to express or promote or indoctrinate, whatever you want to call it. So the speaker teaches a class called Video Games, Identity, and Diversity. It's worth 2 units. In my experience with college, a 2-unit class is usually an elective, so I don't think it's a part of anyone's degree forced. It's something you can take if you want to take it. So the explanation of this class is, there's never been a more important time to talk about diversity in video games. What makes you say that? Even as online harassment campaigns threaten to silence those who bring change to the medium. Okay, who is silencing you? I think it's the other way around. Removing platforms from gamers that are trying to contextualize you know what? Never mind. Players and games themselves are rapidly becoming more diverse. These two thoughts don't match up with each other. So there are online harassment campaigns threatening to silence those who bring change to the medium, and then players and games themselves are becoming rapidly more diverse. That's 2 separate thoughts there. So there's an online harassment campaign silencing anyone who brings us change to the medium. You know what? That doesn't just apply to diverse games. That applies to any Nintendo game ever made. You deviate from the formula, and you're going to get people barking at you for a fucking year, and then they'll end up liking the game. So anyway, and then players and games are rapidly becoming more diverse. Players are becoming more diverse? Honestly, that's assuming diversity has never existed. Games have always had some diversity into it. Have you ever played Show Anarchy? Katamari Damacy? Bangai-O? I think diverse here is a catch-all term for things that are not heterosexual or white or male. Video games have been so diverse since the beginning that there's symbol sexuality happening. One circle fucked another circle and had a junior circle. What are you talking about? This is a turning point in the history of games. A moment when people who have long been marginalized are making some of the most amazing games and speaking with some of the most powerful voices. You know, the Japanese were marginalized in North America during World War II. I don't understand who's marginalized in this situation. I mean, it's like, who's being marginalized? Who's being turned away from developing or making a game at this point? In America, anyone? Is there one person who just cannot make a video game because of their sexuality, gender, race? In America. Across the world, this might be a very important class. And making some of the most amazing games, very debatable, and speaking with some of the most powerful voices. Suck my dick. Choke on it. Very powerful. Diversity is far more than a buzzword. Please prove that. However, period, this lady has never taken any basic grammar in her life. Diversity is far more than a buzzword, comma, however what? You didn't finish your sentence. That's not where you stop a sentence. You don't just stop a sentence at however, lady, person. You don't just stop in the middle of a sentence and say, however, go on. It is a complicated intersection of identity, privilege, there it is, personal experience, and social systems. Okay, so we're standing in the middle of an intersection. It's like diversity deals with identity, okay? Privilege, are we talking about socioeconomic privilege or just skin privilege? Personal experience, why yes, every game probably has some personal experience in, and social systems. It is not enough to say that games should be diverse. We need to understand what that means and why it matters. I would probably sign up for this class just to understand what she is talking about. It's not enough that games should be diverse. Okay, it's not enough. It's not enough to have diversity in your games. I mean, diversity's always existed in games, but that's not good enough. Where do you draw the line? We need to understand what that means and why it matters. Video games are diverse. I think they're diverse because they deal with an intersection of identity, privilege, personal experience, and social systems. Why it matters, that's going to be the big, $20 million question here. Why does it matter? The hardest argument she's going to have to face is, who cares? I don't give a shit. I just want to play Madden. I want to shoot a person that identifies as a bad guy. This is how the class is going to be conducted, using a mixture of lessons, discussions, reading, special guests, and practical game design challenges. This class is going to be a fantastic examination of one of the most important issues facing our industry. The digital revolution, always on DRM, virtual reality, automation. Okay, so say you're taking this class and you want to go ask her a question, because I'm sure you have plenty of them at this point, and you look on her door and you see this sign. So you're going through. It's like, it says, students of color, you are welcome here. Muslim and other non-Christian students, you are welcome here. Queer students, you are welcome here. Female, genderqueer, and transgender students, you are welcome here. Students with disabilities and non-neurotypical students, you are welcome here. Poor students, you are welcome here. Undocumented students, you are welcome here. You are an invaluable part of our community. I make a commitment to building inclusive, supportive space where you can thrive. So then you're like, man, I don't belong to any one of those categories, so I turn around and go home. If I saw that sign on my professor's door, I probably would never try and speak to them. I'm not a Christian. I'm not a religious person at all, but if I were a Christian, I would be like, what? I can't go in there and ask a question? I'm not welcome here? Well, I mean, that's what you assume. Maybe she's welcoming of everyone, but it's not on her chart. I think this whole chart could have been boiled down to everyone is welcome. Please, here are my office hours. Personally, if I were to take this person's class, I know I probably wouldn't last long before I either lied my way through the class. I would have lied and pretended to care about all these issues and write a paper about white guilt and why I'm a bad person for being born in the wrong skin and things that my ancestors may or may not have done, because I have no working knowledge of who my ancestors were, because they were probably poor enough to make a family tree that extended beyond a couple of generations. So yes, I have really no identity to speak of, but I swear, if I would have saw my professor with this little tote bag with the feminist frequency flare on it, because that's what it is. You have to identify your politics with the symbol, so it's pretty much flare. If I saw that, I would just be like, fuck, I got two options. I can either lie about everything that I truly feel so I can pass this class, or I've got to drop it before the 2-week deadline is over so I can get my money back. Because I guarantee if somebody tried to challenge this professor about existing outside of her social context, or saying that people that challenge our ideas should also have free realm to speak. And B, as long as they're not out there killing or hurting people, then that's all right. We can all exist. But I think this image alone just kind of tells me everything I need to know about this game developer. In fact, I can't even find a game that this person has developed, but they used to be a freelance journalist for a lot of publishers. So they've played a lot of games. They're not a stupid person. They have a doctorate degree. So what's the overall message she's trying to deliver? I don't know. At the end of it all, it's just like, these are my politics, and I want to also have my students reflect my own ideals. And video game developers, if you're not making the games that I like and I want to play, then go fuck yourselves. What games are acceptable? Like, moving forward, what does she want? What do any of these presenters that are arguing for more social issues in video games want? Where do they draw the line? Are they ever going to be happy? Is there going to be one completely non-offensive, universal, globalist game that is agreed upon as the standard by which all games should be made? I'm sick of it all, man. I just want to... Can we just frame video games by our own social context and our own worldly view? Like, can we just say that we all approach video games and all other forms of entertainment through our own social lenses? So what might be good for you might not be good for some, or vice versa. Or perhaps we could just take a big old chill pill and say, let's get over ourselves and have a good time. This has been Markiplier, and I hope you enjoyed my pointless video that went nowhere.